The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Good morning. It is 9:08 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I hope you're having a great morning. Mason Fleming producing, Ken Weaver in the newsroom, you on the phone lines and the super text line. We always say the fourth man in our crew is you, the most important part of our crew, so we appreciate you joining in the show, adding your opinions to the conversation. It always makes it better, so thank you for that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without you guys.
No, you guys,
we highly appreciate you.
The best. We have the best listeners, and we say it all the time. It's just true. I do want to start today. Joe Biden gave an interview.
No.
This is before Kamala Harris gives an interview since becoming the nominee. Is that not weird?
That's wild.
I think that's wild. Donald Trump is also going to be giving a news conference today, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock best time zone, Central time zone. For us, we do have the best time zone.
We really do.
I don't think there's any dispute there. I tell everyone we have the best time zone because it's just factual. Central
it's the
time.
Very best.
It
is the best one.
It's the best one. It's the best one. So 1 o'clock our time, Donald Trump is going to be giving a news conference, something that the Democrats just seemingly forgot how to do, except for Joe Biden. Joe Biden did give an interview with CBS, I believe it was. And the biggest takeaway from the interview with CBS is that Joe Biden doesn't think there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power in 2025. Yes, Joe Biden doesn't think there'll be a peaceful transfer of power in 2025.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all. He means what he says. We don't take him seriously. He means it. All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. Have be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes, right?
Oh, God forbid Republicans are in polling places and counting ballots alongside Democrats, but they pull the cadaver out of hiding to push the bloodbath hoax and say that there won't be a peaceful transfer of power if Donald Trump loses. It's like, hey, Joe, the transfer of power would be from you to Kamala, first of all. And I think that the truth is in his first statement.
That there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025.
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all.
You know, I go back to the Jamie Raskin comments that we played yesterday where he talks about, well, if the voters elect Trump, Congress will have to step in because the Supreme Court didn't do their job. We remember those comments from Jamie Raskin saying that Congress will have to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. He said this a couple days ago. Jamie Raskin did. He was talking about if Trump gains power, Congress is going to step in and do whatever they can to fix it. You know what I mean? You got to fix it.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, you know, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified, and then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
That was Jamie Raskin just a few days ago. Joe Biden, in this leaked clip from an interview, says he doesn't think there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power if Trump loses. And I want to really play this end a bit one more time, because he says Republicans want to be counting the votes. Oh my gosh, they want people in the polling places. Those evil Republicans.
All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. It'll have to be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh. God forbid Republicans have people in those rooms. You know, we remember in 2020, they didn't even want us looking in those rooms. You remember the cardboard over the windows in Detroit. You remember the water pipe leak in Georgia. All the convenient solutions to the Democrats' problems, right? How dare we? You know, a lot of times people do ask, what are Republicans doing to make sure that there are no questions around the election in 2024 like there were in 2020? And I always point to we're doing a lot. Joe Biden alluded to it there. They're putting people in the polling places. The RNC has been training lawyers and poll watchers to be in these locations, especially in the battleground states. And you're seeing a myriad of Republicans taking action in their own states. Virginia's Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an executive order to enhance election security yesterday. He signed Executive Order 35 to enhance election security in the state. Measures include disconnecting tabulation machines from the internet and 24/7 monitoring of ballot drop boxes. I know a lot of our listeners are going to love that. Non-citizen records from the Virginia DMV will also be shared with the Department of Elections. And Youngkin went on record saying Virginia has made unprecedented strides in improving the accuracy of our voter list. So what are Republicans doing? Well, we're doing that. We're doing that. Also, Michael Whatley, RNC co-chair, he announced yesterday that in Nevada, in Clark County specifically, 90,000 inactive voters have been removed from the voter rolls in Clark County, Nevada. He says in a tweet, election integrity starts with clean voter rolls. And that's why we've brought litigation in key states to compel outcomes just like this. 90,000 inactive voters removed from the rolls in Clark County. That's a big deal. In 2020, Nevada was decided by just 33,596 votes, and they got rid of 90,000 inactive voters. So what are Republicans doing? Well, we're doing quite a bit. We're doing quite a bit. And there's a lot more lawsuits out there. The RNC is challenging states' acceptance of late mail-in ballots. We understand that was an issue in 2020. Looking at you, Pennsylvania, Republicans are now challenging several states that allow mail-in ballots to be counted after Election Day if they were postmarked on or before the day of voting, saying that such allowances threaten the integrity of our elections. Approximately 20 states and Washington, D.C. accept these late ballots in order to make room for postal issues and people who do not remember to mail in their votes until Election Day, according to NPR. And the RNC and a few others have filed lawsuits in Nevada, Illinois, Mississippi, North Dakota to prevent this from happening. But all the challenges, except the one in Illinois, have already been thrown out by judges, arguing that the decision regarding the end of a federal election is up to Congress, not the states. The RNC Election Integrity Communications Director Claire Zunk told the outlet that the election should end on Election Day. That's the law, and voters deserve fair and accurate results on November 5th. Counting ballots that come in after Election Day in Mississippi and other states threaten election security and undermines transparency for voters. Everybody agrees with that, because whether or not it's the truth, it gives you that thought that maybe they're looking at how many votes they need, and then they're going to find those votes. Judge Louis Garola ruled against the Republican challengers in the Mississippi case, arguing that Congress did make allowances for some late ballots to be counted. If one federal statute implicitly allows post-election receipt of overseas ballots mailed by Election Day, that statute is presumed not to offend against the Election Day statutes, from which one may infer that the similar Mississippi statute on post-election receipt is likewise inoffensive. Well, recently, the RNC is appealing the case in Mississippi to the 5th U.S. Circuit of a Court of Appeals, known as the most conservative appellate court in the country. The committee is also appealing the Nevada case. That case is especially important because it's a swing state. Rather than just letting us fight this in court, a liberal judge unjustifiably dismissed our case. The election integrity advocate told NPR, political parties must be allowed to fight invalid election laws that threaten the integrity of our elections. So when people say, what are the Republicans doing? They're out there fighting tooth and nail to get a lot of this stuff fixed. And we do need to get a lot of this stuff fixed because we're up against radical leftists in many of these states. One of those radical leftists is the Michigan Secretary of State. She's taking a page out of Tim Walz's playbook when he was governor during COVID. And the Michigan Secretary of State says neighbors should snitch on each other to combat election misinformation. Yeah, you heard me right. The Michigan Secretary of State wants you to snitch on your neighbors if they're pushing election misinformation. Her name is Jocelyn Benson. And she's requested that voters in the state of Michigan fight misinformation by reporting on each other. The act of spreading misinformation about the election process, voter rights, or even an issue on the ballot is a serious threat to election security. These efforts, be they foreign, domestic, partisan, or simply malicious, are designed to create mistrust in our election process and are damaging to a healthy democracy, declares a public service announcement from the Michigan Bureau of Elections. Funny, no mention about the cardboard poster boards that were put over the windows in Detroit when they were counting votes in 2020. That did not actually threaten the integrity of the election or create any questions. Don't ask that. And if you're in Michigan and you're asking that question, I hope somebody tells on you. Counteracting harmful misinformation by knowing the truth is critical to not only ensuring our elections and our secure and accurate reflection of the will of the people, but to the survival of our democratic process. Because of the vast amount of information available, it is more important than ever to be a critical consumer of media and to decipher the many competing messages from a variety of sources, the PSA continues. And it also notes how artificial intelligence technology is being used to create realistic deepfake images, audio, videos, and fake comments poses an increasing threat, but assures voters that they can get trusted, verified, nonpartisan information from Michigan's Bureau of Elections and your local clerk. I'm sure the conservatives in Michigan feel very much reassured. Don't believe what you read on the internet. Believe us. We would never lie. With love, the Democrats. They go on to say anyone suspecting their neighbor or other fellow citizens of producing inaccurate or misleading information regarding voting or elections in Michigan, please report it and include an image if possible to misinformation@michigan.gov. It would be a shame if people flooded that email with nonsense. Misinformation@michigan.gov. I'm not recommending anyone flood that email with nonsense. Misinformation@michigan.gov. We do not condone such actions as flooding those emails with nonsense. Misinformation@michigan.gov. They want you to rat on your neighbors. If you dare to question an election. What are the Republicans doing while they're fighting, guys? They're fighting. Training poll watchers, ballot harvesting operations, ballot chasing operations, getting inactive voters off the rolls in swing states. We're out there fighting. That nobody is sitting on their hands until November 5th. I can assure you of that. No one. Including the Democrats. Harris Walz, or as I like to say, A-Walz. They were out on the campaign trail yesterday. Wisconsin, Detroit. It was a big crowd in Detroit. It was a big crowd.
Sorry, this is super random, but I thought it was really funny that the border czar chose a running mate whose last name was Walz. I'm just throwing that out there real quick.
It's quite the timeline to be alive in, isn't it?
Oh, my goodness.
It really is. Plus, she was heckled in Michigan. We'll have all that audio for you on the way. And how that Detroit rally ended. Spoiler alert, Kamala Harris staffers were crying. I know, you love to hear it. We'll tell you about it after the break. It's 9:21 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at United Structural Systems, USS. So we've been doing business with these guys for a while. They've been doing business in Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they're not going anywhere. The guys that work at USS, they actually love working there. I've spoken with quite a few of them. honest, hardworking guys, good at what they do, and they live here in Middle Tennessee. Their families are here. They love Middle Tennessee, and that's why they want to do a good job for you, because they're not leaving. They're not going anywhere. So if you're having foundation issues in your home, if you're having waterproofing issues in your home, do you want to call the new guys in town, or do you want to call the experienced guys in town? I would lean on experience personally. I'd lean on the team with over 25,000 satisfied customers. That's what I would do, and I think you should do it too. If you're having cracks in your foundation, or maybe you're noticing water in your crawl space, wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, those are red flags. Your house is trying to tell you something, and if you ignore it, it's going to get worse. Don't ignore those issues. Call USS today. And for the month of August, back to school special, you'll get 10% off any job over $2,500, because they understand in this economy, school supplies are expensive. Don't put off your home repairs because you have to make that tough choice. They want to give you that discount, 10% off anything over $2,500. That's USS. That's going on through August. Call them today, 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. And everything you need to know is online at USSTN.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Well, investors seem pleased with the latest jobs report. Got new details on that failed terror plot on Taylor Swift fans and a second landfall for Tropical Storm Debbie at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that jobs report number, Ken. You know, one thing that I always look forward to even more than the initial jobs report is the revised jobs report that eventually comes out.
Yeah, they usually release that along with that particular month's jobs report.
Okay.
This one is a different jobs report.
Got you. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to that. Ken Weaver in the news coming up. We do want to cover the Wisconsin and Detroit rallies that Kamala Harris was doing. Dan Mandis thinks that this moment was staged with Kamala Harris, where she was interrupted by a Palestinian heckler, a pro-Hamas protester. And I want to know what you think. Do you think this moment was staged? Harris is on stage and she's doing her thing, talking, and then she says, "Excuse me, I'm speaking," because she's interrupted by a pro-Palestinian protester. And my first reaction was, this isn't staged. This is Kamala Harris being exposed. Mask off.
Do check out Project 2025, because I'm telling you, it is a plan. It is a plan to weaken America's middle class.
So she's doing her thing.
Project 2025.
She's pushing hoaxes.
If he is elected.
And she gets a little bit interrupted. She does a fake smile.
It's all good.
Says it's all good. It's all good.
Even democracy, everyone's voice matters, but I am speaking now.
I want to know what you think about that moment. We'll play the whole clip after the newscast and take your calls. Was it staged or was it real? 615-737-9986. Here's Ken Weaver in the news.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now on Wall Street, investors seem to like the weekly jobless claims report coming in lower than anticipated. The major indices up about 1.5%. The Dow up more than 400 points. New information about the alleged ISIS plot to kill Taylor Swift fans at one of her Austrian concerts. One of the suspects, the 17-year-old with Turkish-Croatian roots, would have been working at the venue. He's been hired just a few days ago by a company that provides services at the stadium. And Tropical Storm Debbie pounding the Carolinas. Here's Jim Ryan.
With top sustained winds of 50 miles per hour, Debbie made its second U.S. landfall near Bulls Bay, South Carolina. That puts North Carolina on the so-called dirty side of the storm. Lisa Trueblood lives near Raleigh.
I'm just gassing up my car. I got extra gas, extra water, and filling my tub, things like that, making sure I have non-perishables.
Debbie has spun off at least one tornado in North Carolina. A middle school and 10 homes were damaged, but no one was hurt.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
So Project 2025. Look, if he is elected, Donald Trump intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations. He intends to cut Social Security and Medicare.
That's a lie.
He intends to surrender our fight against the climate crisis.
Oh, my gosh.
And he intends to end the Affordable Care Act. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
That was Kamala Harris yesterday in Detroit. She's interrupted by a pro-Palestinian protester. And she gets off script. And this fake bubbly personality disappears. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. And an icy stare appears. And she looks like that evil woman everybody says she is. You know, when you hear the reports that Kamala Harris used to tell her staff, don't look in her eyes. And to greet her with good morning, General. That's who I saw. That's who I saw when the protester interrupted her. Do you think it was staged? Mandis said he thought it was staged. I'll be honest with you. That thought never crossed my mind. Never. I'm of the opinion that they selected Tim Walz because he wasn't Jewish. That the best guy for the job would have been Josh Shapiro, but they couldn't pick him because the radical left is way too radical. So why would you stage it in Detroit, where you have a large Muslim population that are pro-Palestine, for her to say, you know what, you want to do that, Donald Trump is going to win. But right now I'm speaking. That thought never crossed my mind. What crossed my mind was we saw the fake personality that has been curated in a lab for Kamala Harris fall apart before our eyes as soon as she gets off teleprompter. That's what I saw. What do you think? 615-737-9986.
You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
Icy cold stare after it. If it was fake, there was just another miscalculation by the Democrats. I'm speaking. We're not talking about Palestine here in Michigan, where the majority of these voters are that are voting for the Democrat ticket are rabidly pro-Palestine. I'm speaking. Steve in the borough, what do you think? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Brian. Well, you know what? We should use their own tactics against them. You know how they'll take something and like, oh, Project 2025, which Donald Trump never endorsed, never embraced, and then they take things, if you do this, Donald Trump's going to do this. Well, I don't know if you've seen, the clips are out there talking about how Minneapolis is now the first city in America that has the Islamic prayer bills that go off 5 times a day. So based on that, if you elect, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, then every city in America is going to have Islamic bells going off 5 times a day, It's sad because they take something that's totally not true, and, it's kind of a Marxist tactic. If you repeat a lie enough, it becomes perceived as the truth.
Yep.
So I don't know why we don't ever use their own tactics against them.
You bring up a good point, George, and I appreciate the call.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, later. Steve in the borough always calls me Brian. It's just a troll. I like it. The rallies yesterday were chaotic at best. At best. The Detroit rally actually ended in chaos. There were thousands of people stranded. They're not used to these kind of rallies on the Democrat Party. Alex Jones actually was saying that he heard a rumor, and it's Alex Jones, so take it with a grain of salt. He said that the reason people showed up was because they promised a free Taylor Swift concert. Maybe it's true. I do know in Wisconsin they had Bon Iver performing to get their crowd there. But after the Detroit rally, there was a lot of people. Let's not beat around the bush. There was a large crowd in Detroit. But after the rally, complete chaos. It was 2.5 hours later, and people were still unable to find shuttles to get back to their cars. The campaign staff had no idea what was happening. The rally was held near a UPS delivery center, and dozens of trucks were mixed up with the buses that were supposed to be bringing people back, like the shuttle buses to bring them back to their cars. And they said tempers were high, and some Kamala staffers were downright in tears. In tears. Josiah Lippincott was a reporter that was there, and he ended up hopping on one bus alone and said he was just going to get back to where he could be, closer to his car, and he would walk because it became so chaotic. Buses turning around, buses getting, into accidents, almost hitting people. Chaos. But they had a couple rallies yesterday. They're on the campaign trail. Tim Walz was he was front and center. Tim Walz, they're really excited about Tim A. Walz, who is being accused of stolen valor left and right, and the more I hear him talk, the more I don't like the guy. I don't know if it's weird. It's weird. Tim Walz says he repeated a lot of the lines from the same rally that they had in Philadelphia. Kamala too. They just regurgitated the same speech, which is awkward because the internet lives forever. You're going to have a larger audience on the internet than you're going to have at your rallies. Write a different speech. But they don't. Tim Walz repeated his same mind your damn business, neighbors line.
Because we know there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
Yeah, and it's funny because we know that Tim Walz set up a narc line for neighbors over COVID, and Democrats are now setting up a narc line in Michigan where they held one of these rallies yesterday. In case anybody brings up election misinformation, please narc on your neighbors. Don't listen to Tim Walz. And
mind your own damn business.
No, that's not their style. They want you to narc on your neighbors. Tim Walz also said that Kamala Harris is on the side of the American people.
You know it. Vice President Harris is on the side of the American people.
Oh.
She took on predators, fraudsters, transnational gang members. She stood up against powerful corporate interests, and she never hesitated, not once, to reach across the aisle if it improved people's lives.
Whose lives have been improved under Kamala Harris besides illegal aliens? Can anybody answer that question? Whose lives have been improved under Kamala Harris at any level of her service? As DA, as senator, as vice president, has anyone's lives been improved? I think not. Oh, she stood up against transnational gangs. Oh, the same gangs that have come across the border while she was border czar that now have a green light to shoot police officers in Denver. She stood up to them. Yep, she did. He also says he's not a name caller. He's a teacher.
I'm not a name caller, but what I am as a teacher, I observe things. So I want to tell you what I observed, and you've observed about these guys when you see them, that it's a very clear thing. Yes, they are creepy and weird as hell. You see it. This is not normal. This is not normal behavior. Nobody's asking for this crazy stuff.
That says the man that puts tampons in elementary school boys' bathrooms. Nobody's asking for this crazy stuff. Also, the hanging on, I'm a teacher. Okay, Google teacher arrested. Like, just because you're a teacher does not mean you're a good person. It doesn't. We see teachers all the time being arrested for all sorts of crimes. I went to high school where a teacher was arrested for doing heroin with students. True story. And to hang your hat, I'm a teacher, I must be a good guy. Listen, a lot of teachers are great, but that doesn't mean you get a pass and you're a good person just because you're a teacher. Tim Walz also ran away from military service when it got hard. That's Tim Walz. And he also says, listen, let's settle our differences not through violence, but through votes.
We settle our political differences not through violence, but through our votes.
I'm like, cool, yeah, like tone down the rhetoric. Let's not get anybody shot, right? That's a fine message. I had no problem with that until he said this right after.
And just so you know, when I was in Congress, I was the top gun at the trap shoot 3 years in a row. I can outshoot them, too. I can outshoot these guys.
Okay. Let's not worry about violence. By the way, I can outshoot every one of them. Okay. The president survived an assassination attempt, Donald Trump, a little over 3 weeks ago. Tim Walz gets on stage and says,
I can outshoot these guys.
Okay. Let's tone down the rhetoric, Tim. Let's tone it down. And Tim Walz with the stolen valor questions, the dam is breaking. The dam is breaking on the Democrat Party. I love to see it. Did they not vet this guy beforehand? Did anyone think to maybe look into Tim Walz's background before selecting him as VP? Or was the fact that he let his city burn down during the Summer of Love enough for the Democrats to say, that's our guy? Because the stolen valor claims aren't going anywhere. Even NBC admits that the Harris-Walz campaign, the Harris-A-Walz campaign, they're not engaging on the stolen valor claims. They're running from those claims.
I get the sense that the Harris campaign is ready for these attacks, but I have to tell you, Kristen, they're not engaging directly on whether or not he was falsifying his record, his military record. They are, of course, as you said, pointing out that he does have a history of service, both in the National Guard, but also as a teacher, as someone who was a governor, as someone who was a congressional member. So
again, he was a teacher. Guys, he has to be great. He was a teacher. That is not... I love good teachers. I love good teachers. In the year 2024, that is not a standard bearer. You know what I mean? We have teachers that are pushing radical gender ideology on kids. We have teachers that are arrested for child pornography. We have teachers that are arrested for being drunk at school. Like that's cool. You were a teacher, but that shouldn't be the push for Tim Walz is a good guy.
They're sort of leaning in on the fact that he's someone who wants to serve America. And yesterday when he was in Philadelphia, he was also making that point, saying that they want this to be a people-powered campaign and a people-centered administration if they are elected to the White House. But it's very interesting to see them say, yes, he does have a sort of a long history in the military and joined at 17, has trained people who did go into combat zones, is what one source told me, but also is not engaging directly on whether or not he falsified here.
Yeah, they're not engaging directly. In fact, he ran away from stolen valor questions on the tarmac yesterday, the same tarmac where J.D. Vance confronted those guys. Real quick, Vanessa in Franklin has a comment on Kamala and Trump. Vanessa, what's up?
Well, I have a couple of comments. The first one is in regards to what has she done and what has Tim done that's good for the people. Well, they're good for the big developers and investors because the riots of 2020 created opportunity zones in large cities where investors now in those who build in those zones and make improvements in those zones don't have to pay capital gains taxes on their investments.
You hit on something so like that's so on point. Not enough people talk about this. The riots of 2020, the Summer of Love, the majority of the riots that happened in designated opportunity zones that Donald Trump had created. And like you said, it lessens the tax burden for those investors.
Well, I don't want to go into all of the rumored pallets of bricks that were put in those areas. But anyway, aside from that, that's how she cut taxes for the rich. And that's how Tim cut taxes for the rich in their cities. The other thing, I'm going to be mean and say, those who know do, those who don't teach.
Jeez.
So I love teachers, but Tim is not one that I love.
No, and I love how they keep calling him Coach Walz, and he was an assistant coach. He wasn't he even stole valor there. Like you didn't lead the varsity team. You were an assistant, pal. You held the clipboard. Congratulations.
Yeah. Anyway, those were my comments.
I appreciate you, Vanessa. I do. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Listen, Bonnie, Gary, Bobby, Wes, we'll get to your calls on the way. Plus, we have more audio from these ridiculous rallies in Wisconsin and Detroit. Plus, J.D. Vance was everywhere the Democrats didn't want him to be yesterday. And we have all that relevant audio from when he took a look at his new plane that he's going to get in a couple months, Air Force Two, to when he asked the press why the press doesn't ask any questions. All that and more on the way. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Stocks are up after the release of the weekly jobless claims report. We've got new information on the alleged ISIS terror plot to kill Taylor Swift fans coming up at 10 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:56 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. One of my favorite hate listeners, 4559, sent me a text. He said, hey, Chris, you sound a little panicked and desperate today. So sad. Where? Cry more, Chris. Do I sound panicked and desperate? I don't feel like I'm panicked and desperate, so I said, please call. Please, I hit him with a Jeb Bush. Please call. I said, I'll get you on first, give you as much time as you need to prove any point you'd like. Wish I had time. He said, I'm about to go see my new grandbaby. So sorry, perhaps another day. I said, convenient. Congrats on the new grandbaby. They always text, but they never call. They seldom call. I think only Matt and Smyrna regularly calls. I wonder what he thinks about Tim Walz.
Please call in.
Please call. Wes in the borough. You're up next on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Your thoughts, sir?
Thank you for taking my call. You know, people think that the reason why Kamala will not do an interview is because she's not sharp to do it. And interviews can be tough if you have a prying interviewer, okay? Not the weatherman from NBC News.
Fair.
He's doing the old Obama hope and change. Obama never said what his hope and change. We have hope and change. Never said what it was. What were you hoping for? Well, I hope we can change. What do you want to change? So we can have hope. And everybody listening to that filled in their minds what they wanted. So the person who wants free health care says, oh, he's going to change if we get free health care. And the person who's older says, oh, we're going to free daycare, health care, free this, free that. He never had to promise a thing. But because people, would fill in what they wanted the change to be.
Yep.
Kamala's doing the same thing. And she will not, and, if you grab her on a tarmac, I wish when J.D. Vance had grabbed on the tarmac, threw it to the ground, says, you need to answer a few questions here, please. She will not do it.
No.
She can't do it.
No, it's the Obama campaign. That's what we're watching.
And the sad thing is, sir, if she, God forbid she wins, how is she going to stand up to Putin or the Chinese premier or the Iran, the head Iranian guy?
Well, she'll no. We know, Wes. She's just going to hit him with a, excuse me, I'm speaking. And then they're going to be like, oh, all right, sorry, we overstepped. And then everything will end in happiness and rainbows, like the Democrats always promise. I appreciate it.
But please blow that out there. You got a bigger footprint than I could ever possibly hope to have. Share that with everybody.
Hey, man, don't discount your own influence. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers, talk to your friends and family. Don't sell yourself short, Wes. Don't do it. And that goes to everybody listening. Like, I'm blessed to have a microphone, but you have a social circle. You have a sphere of influence as well. Everyone does, and that's what we need to keep pushing. And I've said it. You're probably going to get tired of me hearing me say it by the time November 5th rolls around. We are in a unique position in Tennessee because of the transplants. Reach out and talk to people. Tell them to call people back home. We're in a unique position. We are. J.D. Vance was in a unique position yesterday on the tarmac when he went to go check out the new plane he's going to be getting in a few months. We'll have that audio for you after Ken's newscast, which starts right now on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Still got a crash at 65 southbound in Trinity Lane, north of downtown. And on Wall Street, stocks are up after the release of the weekly jobless claims report this morning, coming in 17,000 fewer than expected for the week ending August 3rd. The Dow up nearly 500 points. New information on the alleged ISIS terror plot to kill Taylor Swift fans. Officials say one of the teenage suspects, the 17-year-old with Turkish-Croatian roots, had been hired a few days ago by one of the companies that services the venue and would have been at work there. Here's Maggie Ruley.
Fans crushed after Swift's team releasing a statement just hours before the first night's concert, saying, "We have no choice but to cancel the 3 scheduled shows for everyone's safety," after Austrian police said that an abstract danger remained.
Yeah, authorities are saying the suspects plan to use bombs and machetes. Swift had been slated to play 3 sold-out shows today through Saturday, drawing about 195,000 people. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says 3 members of a Texas gang are in custody following a crime spree along I-40 from Nashville to Kingston Springs yesterday, starting with a bank ATM here in Nashville and then a woman in Kingston Springs who says she shot at someone trying to rob her. They got into a getaway vehicle that was tracked down by Metro Police and Tennessee Highway Patrol helicopters who relayed the location to cops on the ground. Police say these 3 are members of a gang in Houston, Texas. And a crackdown at Costco. The members-only retailer now installing scanners at the entrance doors to check those membership cards.
You're going to still be able to go if you are a guest. You'll just have to be with a member who has their membership card with them. Now, next month, the price of a Costco membership is going to increase for the first time since 2017. The retailer indicated part of this crackdown is because they want to protect the benefits of the people who actually pay for the membership.
That's Trevor Alt and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.10:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram. All are the same, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I'll follow back. I will. You can also stream us wherever you go, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or our 99.7 WTN app. You can get all of our podcasts on our 99.7 WTN app also, or if you prefer, Apple and Spotify. Should you miss anything, you want to check it out again. The boss moves by J.D. Vance yesterday were on another level. He rolled up on Air Force Two on the tarmac because he said he wanted to get a look at his new plane.
I figured I'd come by and one, just get a good look at the plane. Hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months. But
I figured I'd come by and take a look. It's going to be my plane in a few months. Are they treating it well?
It's that cocky son of a gun.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And then he also had this to say about the press not asking Kamala any questions.
I also thought you guys might get lonely because the vice president doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. Have they given you guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? No?
Did they give you guys an explanation why she won't take questions from reporters? No? Huh.
Nobody? Okay, great. Well, I hope that she changes her mind because it'd be good for the American people, and I think it'd be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign instead of one from a basement with a teleprompter. So have a good one, guys. See ya.
I hope she changes her mind and she runs a real campaign instead of one from her basement with a teleprompter. Yeah, we all do. We all do. J.D. Walz was on fire yesterday. The way he did that on the tarmac was an absolute boss move. Absolute boss move. To put things into perspective, when Tim Walz was on the tarmac, he ran away from reporters' questions. He fled because reporters want to know about stolen valor.
Governor, Vance accused you of stolen valor. Your response. Governor.
No response, just a quick shuffle away. They really went to the Biden school of campaigning. I've seen on the internet people are calling Tim Walz a Timu Joe Biden. He's a Timu Joe Biden. It's just a cheap knockoff, that's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. J.D. Vance was also pretty harsh when it came to Tim Walz or Tim A. Walz and his claims of the claims of stolen valor.
When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful.
I think it's shameful, too, and the way he's been acting like he's the man when it comes to his service, it blows my mind. And I know we have a large veteran audience, and I want to know what you guys think about the stolen valor claims. Gary in Greenbrier, you're up first on Tim A. Walz and veterans. What's up, man?
Well, thank you much, and I want you to know that I was in the Marines for 4 years, and a buddy of mine, Kane, is listening right now. So hello, Kane. He pushed for me to do this, so I'm going to do it because we're going in for the political kill, so to speak. What about a parody video called Coward of the County? And it would be Tim Walz starring role with his supporting actress, Heels Up Harris.
Yeah.
And we'd use the Kenny Rogers song, have somebody rewrite the lyrics to it, and then we could all enjoy listening to it. And then VP nominee or pick, Tim Walz, can listen to our feelings, which are like this. He abandoned his soldiers like a coward. He refused to go to war with them after drawing 24 years worth of taxpayer money, and he knew how to work this system before that unit was federalized and got out of there. So he didn't go to war like a real man does, like we are ready to serve and go to war. And that brings me to mind. If we run into trouble with an adversary and the country calls for us to stand, is he going to run away again?
I mean, I think those are valid questions, Gary. And I think first I want to say thanks for your service. You know, I appreciate it. But one of the questions I want to ask is, veterans talk. Veterans talk amongst each other. They're in the group text. They're on the Facebook posts. They're in the Facebook groups. What do veterans that are also Democrats think about Tim Walz? Do you have any insight into that?
I have in my VFW post. There are a couple, and everyone's kind of gone like silent. It's like real silent. First off, it even started with the real heavy campaign language from Biden. Everyone's gone silent. I cannot speak for them because it's gone silent.
And I bet you that silence is deafening. I bet you the silence is deafening.
And because you get these transplants that are still diehard Democrats, and I've challenged in the past, said, what the heck? You know what your oath was about, and look at who these people are. But then we have to be careful because, you know, they're our buddies, and they're very few, and it hurts. But this is made silence, and it's loud. It's a loud silence. It's like, you know, they have to finally admit, yeah, I know I belong to a union, but I think I'm fed up with this stuff field.
Yep.
Because that's a lot of what it is. And then they come south because, shoot, the standard of living, and they get out of the tax me to death state, you know. And, you know, it's interesting, too. Those guardsmen up there in Minnesota and all, they like going to pubs after drill. I know a little bit about these guys because my brother-in-law, who was in the Navy, retired chief, he's from up there. And, you know, it'd be interesting if somebody had a parody song about the coward of the county from the very county that he enlisted in or his artillery battalion was in. And even with a Bongino is his name, the Runaway.
Yep.
That song that Kane was talking about, you know, and they even, because that's a true coward.
Yep.
When you run away, you're a coward. And I got no stomach for it. I've been overseas where you're scared. And I remember one time, it's years and years ago, because I'm 71 years of age, where, you know, you get scared. But I knew that I was not going to dishonor my father's name. If that meant getting killed, that's exactly what it was going to be. And I was not going to dishonor my country.
And that's why we respect the hell out of you, Gary. Appreciate the call, man. Really do. That's Gary, solid guy. He calls in often. Respect that guy. You know, Tim Walz isn't answering any of these questions. The Minnesota National Guard has answered the question, though, and they've actually confirmed yesterday that Governor Tim Walz was demoted and did not retire as a command sergeant major like he has claimed for years, including on his official gubernatorial biography. Now, while Walz temporarily held the title of command sergeant, he retired as a master sergeant in 2005 for benefit purposes because he did not complete additional coursework at the U.S. Army Sergeants Major Academy. Army Lieutenant Colonel Kristen Augie, the Minnesota National Guard State Public Affairs Officer, told Just the News. So to recap, he wimped out of going to Iraq. He got demoted for not finishing it. And then he pretends like he wasn't demoted. He pretends like he wasn't demoted. J.D. Vance called it shameful, and I think J.D. Vance is absolutely right. You're campaigning as a hero, and you're not one, sir. As Gary in Greenbrier pointed out, you're a coward. 100%. NBC had this to say about J.D. Vance's comments and Tim Walz being shameful.
Vance is pointing out two things. Number one, that Walz basically left his unit, which no one really disputes, in 2005, before that unit was set to be deployed to Iraq. Walz was planning to run for Congress. The Harris campaign points out all the nice things he did for veterans and on the VA committee once he was in Congress. But the fact that he did not go serve in Iraq, which J.D. Vance himself did, albeit as a public affairs officer.
Also, he did good things for the VA. Does that even count anymore in a Harris-Walz regime? Because under Biden-Harris, illegal aliens are cutting the line at the VA, getting better care than our veterans. So I think that point is moot at best.
And U.S. Marines is a point that they are trying to make. And also, they're seizing on a comment that Walz has used in the past to suggest that certain weapons should not be in the hands of regular people. Weapons like what he carried in war is the quote from Walz. Vance seizing on that and saying, you were never in war, Tim Walz, so what are you talking about there? And the Harris campaign has responded to that, too, as well, pointing out that Walz both carried, trained, and is deeply familiar with the types of weapons we're talking about here, regardless of having never used them in combat.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about what he said. It's what he meant. We've heard this so many times from the Democrats. The clip in question was actually posted to the Kamala Harris HQ Twitter account by an intern, and this is that clip.
But we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
That I carried in war, he says. Now a lot of people are seizing on that comment. That I carried in war. Well, you didn't carry anything in war, sir. You weren't in combat. But to me, the most shocking comment in that clip is, we can do CDC research on gun violence. Oh, the Center for Disease Control, really? I don't know. I wouldn't want their help. Does anybody trust the CDC anymore? I guess that's a conversation for another day. But Tim Walz and the stolen valor claims are reaching critical mass. Everyone is talking about this. Larry in Clarksville, you're also a veteran, sir. Your thoughts on the stolen valor claims?
Oh, thank you, Chris. I had to get that in there.
I appreciate it. It's fine.
Listen, he is a slap in the face to every veteran that has ever served, and especially for those who lost their lives. He ran away. When you sign the oath, to go where and when your country calls. So basically, all he did was take government funds for those 24 years while he was in the Guard, and I have the utmost respect for the Guard because they've done a lot of stuff. Okay, but he found out that they were about to get deployed, and he ran away.
Yep.
So, and he wants to come take our guns. Yep. I would like him and Kamala come to me in person and try to take mine, because that ain't going to end up well.
Do you think a Democrat veteran can vote for this ticket, Larry?
Listen, I know one Democrat veteran that would vote Democrat if her running mate was a giraffe, a goat, or a zebra.
Fair enough. Vote blue no matter who. Appreciate the call, Larry. Thanks so much. Let's go to Carl in the borough, who is also a veteran. Carl, thanks for your service. Your thoughts on the stolen valor of Tim Walz, sir?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I didn't want to take up a lot of time because I know other people need to call. But first of all, my first thing is I was in the Air Force. And if I could just mention this, I had a friend of mine who had since passed away from cancer. He was in the Marines back in '83 when I was stationed in Utah in the Air Force, but he was over there when the barracks blew up. And he told me a little bit about it. But that's for Paul. Getting a little upset. But anyhow, I was in the service. I don't brag about it. But I just want to say maybe this is a time to defend people that have been in the service. I was an armament system specialist. I loaded weapons. But one thing I found out, that people that brag, now granted, J.D. Vance is having to talk about it because he's running for president or vice president. But this guy, he's having to talk about it because that's part of campaigning. But there's one thing that a real man in the military does, and he never lies about what he did or what he didn't do in the Air Force or the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. This guy, you just call him a liar.
Yep.
He's a liar. He's very unmanly. And, I was born and raised here in Nashville, very patriotic. And I just want to say that you think about this. You're voting for somebody that's being dishonest, and it's going to get worse for them because more and more stuff's coming out about it. And it's just the fact that he's lied or lying by omission.
Yep.
He's brought this up on him. He's brought it up, and he's actually come out and admitted he never did combat duty. And I will never admit to that. I was in the Cold War. We loaded things that could kill a lot of people. And I'm just telling you, it's just unmanly. It's sad what the Democrats have come up with. But anyway, thank you for your service, for being on the air, and thanks for all the other veterans out there. And God bless America.
Hey, appreciate you, Carl. God bless you, man, and rest in peace to your friend. Thank you for sharing that with us. A great call. Tim Walz, this is reaching critical mass, and I wonder what the Democrats do with this. They wanted to get that ordinary white guy on the ticket, right? MSNBC even said, listen, they chose him because he's an old white guy, and they wanted that kind of vibe and atmosphere. You're seeing the same playbook that they used on Tim Kaine, calling him America's dad, being recycled for Tim Walz. But Tim Walz is just a coward, an absolute coward. MSNBC, though, they said, listen, yeah, Tim Walz is an old white man, and that's a good thing.
The significance of this man is that he is an older white man in a moment in which the far right is trying to convince white people that the future is treacherous for them, trying to convince men that the future is treacherous for them. And here is an older white man, a coach, a soldier.
An assistant coach and a soldier that ran from battle, I would like to add.
Who is very hard to dismiss as some kind of effete coastal elite, who is telling older folks and white people, you do not need to be afraid of the future.
MSNBC, they always outdo themselves on the craziness. He's telling white people, don't be afraid of the future. I would like to point out the president with DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, and how that's making it hard on straight white males in America. But, I mean, we could go down that road, but we could also point out you chose the wrong one. You didn't vet him properly. The stolen valor claims are ridiculous. And when you get into his financials, this whole average white guy stuff is even more laughable. We'll talk about that, plus take more of your calls after the break. It's 1022 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at the Glock store. Listen, if you are looking for a place to purchase your firearms, have your questions answered about firearms, and train with your firearms, the Glock store is a one-stop shop. The Glock store will answer all of your questions. They have the friendliest, most educated staff. I showed up a little bit early for my training session a couple weeks back, and I tell you what, every employee in that store greeted me. Every employee in that store asked me if I needed help with something. Every employee in that store said, hey, how you doing? It was nice. It felt like I was at home, and I am at home at the Glock store. You'll feel at home, too. Whether you need your questions answered, they have a whole counter in the back that's like a Genius bar at the Mac store, except for guns. And they'll answer any question that you have. Or if you need to train, they have the state-of-the-art Shoot 270 indoor ranges, and you won't find that anywhere else. It's just you, a private instructor, and a private shooting room. Not a lane, a shooting room, because that's way more realistic when you're training. And then when you graduate from the shooting rooms, you go to the low light, no light training. You can learn how to clear a room in the dark. This is real world training, and you only get it at the Glock store. If you haven't been to the Glock store, you should check them out. Tell them that Chris Hand sent you. And once you discover the Glock store, I'm telling you, this is going to be your new favorite place as well. Online at theglockstore.com, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Still got a crash north of downtown, 65 southbound at Trinity Lane. Stocks are up. There's new information in the alleged terror plot to kill Taylor Swift fans and new allegations about Hunter Biden at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Taylor Swift stuff is wild.
Yes, it is.
It's wild. Are you going to come out and endorse Kamala Harris when she's left the border wide open and we know that known terror watch list suspects have come across the border?
That's going to be interesting.
If you're going to cancel your concerts in Vienna over ISIS, Donald Trump helped take out ISIS. Donald Trump was tough on these guys. Not so much with Joe Biden in charge. Not so much. I think she'd be best served to stay out of politics, but we'll find out. I'm sure we're going to find out here within a few weeks if Taylor Swift is going to endorse the Harris A. Walz ticket or not. It's 10:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You know, they picked Tim Walz because they wanted to have he's just an average white guy. He's just an average white guy. But have you heard about his financials? This is another thing that they haven't done at all in the vetting and in the background of Tim Walz. Tim Walz is 60 years old, okay? And he has zero investments. I'll tell you, let me just say it one more time. He is 60 and he has zero investments. Tim Walz has no stocks, no bonds, no crypto, no real estate, no index funds, no mutual funds, no private equities. The potential VP is financially illiterate. The guy who could be a heartbeat away from the presidency if they were to win in November doesn't know how to run his own finances. And, you know, they're going to try and use that normal guy, and he's not super rich, but this is not that. 60 years old and he owns nothing. That's wild. Now, he does have some pensions. He does have some pensions. I think that's important to point out. He's got teacher's pension, military pension, congressional pension, governor's pension, Social Security. So he could be pulling in $150K a year from government pensions and Social Security. But in a Biden-Harris economy or a Harris-Walz economy, I don't know. I don't know if he can keep his current lifestyle going on that kind of money. And then you look at all of his Chinese ties, and it becomes very, very questionable who Tim Walz is. Very questionable. Cousin Danny, real quick in the borough, wants to talk about Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and your guns. What's up? What's up, Danny?
Howdy, fam. I'm so sick of the line weapons of war. And I just wanted to point out how much it annoys me because you guys are listening to the radio and you now have to listen to me. I have like 17 weapons of war in my closet, and none of them are quote, assault rifles. We use knives in war. We use semi-automatic pistols in war. We use pump-action shotguns, semi-automatic shotguns, and even lever-action rifles in war. The fact that this man is too illiterate to properly enunciate what it is he's trying to do, on top of the fact that he's lying about his experience and his use of said weapons, which he inappropriately catalogs, is further proof that the man's an idiot, and he doesn't need to be anywhere near that big red button.
Cousin Danny in the borough with a mic drop moment. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$10:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Stocks climbing after this morning's weekly jobless claims report showed 17,000 fewer than expected Americans sought benefits last week. The Dow up nearly 600 points. We're learning more about the alleged ISIS terror plot to kill Taylor Swift fans in Vienna. One of the suspects had been hired a few days ago by a company that services the venue and would have been working there. Swift canceled those 3 shows, which were expected to draw 195,000 fans over the 3 days. New allegations against Hunter Biden claim he took money to influence U.S. policy while his father was in office. Here's Aaron Katursky.
There are no new charges here, but this is the closest the special counsel has come to tying President Biden to his son's foreign business affairs. Special counsel David Weiss accused Hunter Biden of accepting about $1 million from a Romanian businessman who was attempting to influence U.S. policy and public opinion while Joe Biden was vice president.
These allegations part of a tax case set for trial in California. California next month. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Pivot, if I may, the campaign trail. Today, Senator J.D. Vance has accused Governor Walz of stolen valor. I mean, obviously, military service is something that's very deeply personal to the president, given the service of his son. I'm curious, how is he reacting to these statements?
So look, any specific attacks or comments, I would have to refer you to the campaign. I think when I was answering your colleague Joey's question about Governor Walz, I laid out, and you all have seen his bio, right? This is someone who enlisted at 17 years old to serve his country. He was part of the Army National Guard for 24 years. This is someone who was a high school teacher, right? A high school coach as well, who grew up in a small town in the Midwest. And so I think his bio speaks for itself. Who he is speaks for himself. His record speaks for itself. And I'm just not going to say anything.
That's Karine Jean-Pierre dodging the question the same way Tim Walz dodged going to Iraq. Weird. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll let Tim Walz's record speak for itself, she says. Well, let's let Congressman Tim Walz speak for himself. In 2009, Congressman Tim Walz, he actually lied about his rank on TV. He referred to himself as a command sergeant major. But the Minnesota National Guard confirmed Wednesday that Governor Tim Walz was demoted and did not retire as a command sergeant major. This is a scandal that they are going to have to deal with because the internet lives forever. And these videos are out there of Tim Walz committing stolen valor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Congressman Tim Walz. It's a real honor to be able to pay tribute to the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division and to your families and friends as you prepare to deploy in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. As a 24-year veteran of the National Guard and the Red Bull Division and a retired Command Sergeant Major,
there it is, retired Command Sergeant Major. You see, the trouble is when you dodged Iraq, you got demoted, Tim. Congressman Tim A. Walz there, lying to the American people, lying to troops. He built his entire career on this lie. He built his entire career on it. The Minnesota National Guard confirms that he inflated his rank. He may have also used stolen valor on his retirement papers. Sean Davis on Twitter had this. Oh my. He falsely filed paperwork with the Minnesota National Guard to retire as an E9, a command sergeant major, knowing full well he did not meet the obligations to retire as an E9. I would love to see this man's DD-214. Can we get a DD-214? You know, that's what they give you when you leave service. Let's see what's on the DD-214. They won't provide that. Of course not. They're going to run from these questions the same way he ran from these questions yesterday on the tarmac in Wisconsin. CNN says it's absolutely false that Tim Walz carried weapons on a battlefield.
Walz did make a comment speaking to a group, he's done it a couple of times, where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you.
Yep.
There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
Even CNN calling out Tim A. Walz. His claims are absolutely false. Do you feel this reaching a critical mass point? Are they going to swap out Tim Walz for somebody else the same way they swapped out Biden for Harris? You'd have to think that the entire Harris A. Walz campaign right now are panicked. They have to be panicked. Ryan in Tullahoma, you're next on Super Talk. Thanks for holding, man. What do you got?
Man, here's a little perspective on the him being a coward thing. I was telling your producer, your call screener, that. So I did the research on what year he retired or left, and that was the same year that I was an 18-year-old high school graduate who signed up, joined the Army, and then we were being sent to Iraq.
Well, I appreciate your service, man.
Yeah, man, we're glad to do it. So the way that looks to people my age is someone in that position with that much information, knowing what we were going into, because we didn't, to be quite honest with you. We knew we were about to go be a part of something that was huge. But once we got there, and to be quite honest with you, if you're a coward, I don't blame you for bowing out, because you could tell that to about 9 of my buddies that, but in his position, there was no way he would have seen 1 second of a bullet flying at him. So anything that he has said at this point about combat or things I carried in combat, even if he would have manned up and went and served his men, which is the biggest, most cowardice thing, because the only thing that got us through that was good leadership, man.
I hear you. Do you know any Democrat veterans, Ryan?
I do. And I'm 37,
what's their
so I'm
take
probably
on this?
the younger spectrum of your listeners sometimes about this time of day, because I kind of noticed a lot of the guys that were talking, say the 80s, 90s, maybe even earlier than that, but like the middle of the GWAT, 2005 through 2009 in Iraq, 03 was bad, and we knew it wasn't great, but there was like, we were convinced everything was going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of my liberal friends, and they're coming around, trust me, on that one. And like you said earlier, veterans talk, we talk.
But do you think that this is a disqualifying thing for them, a Democrat veteran to be able to vote for this ticket, or do you think it's still vote blue no matter who?
I think this is a game changer for veterans that might be Democratic, because it doesn't really matter, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't even matter, independent. I mean, we kind of got jaded to, the Bush era, because, those were Republicans, those were decisions that were made. We didn't like how Iraq turned out, and we didn't like why we were there. So I can understand their feelings on that, and they've been that way since I've known them, since we were 19-year-old kids. When we realized what we were getting ourselves into, we were like, something's wrong, these Republicans are wrong. They became lifelong Democrats, but that is completely shifting, because it doesn't matter how you feel politically. When you serve in the military, there's leaders and there's not. And the people that will walk out on you when it's time to go to war are the people that will walk out on you when there's a little scandal or they do something a little wrong, and they will start lying to the media. We just have to kill that cycle.
Yep.
Because inside the military, that man right there, and I don't know him personally, glad I don't, but if I did, I mean, it is one of those things. Those are unforgivable things. To walk out on your men and then slide off into politics, that is what even Democratic veterans hate.
Yeah.
Is somebody that walks out the door, leaves their men high and dry in their biggest time. I mean, going to Iraq in 2005, when he slid out of there, was when it was going to be so hard, and he just didn't have the brass to do it.
Yeah,
and they took his brass from him, and then to lie about it later, if everything comes out, all the facts of what he did, and it's all backed up, like he's lost us all, veteran-wise.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind that he's been able to get this far in his career without this coming out.
Well, I can tell you from being in the military for quite a long time, man, there's a lot of people in some really high places that have no business being there. And I bet you about any veteran you ask will tell you that they've had great leadership and they've had people that you just didn't understand how they got there. And he was a slip through the crack. I wouldn't call him a DEI hire, but maybe he is in some way with his politics, to come out of there and see that and then go down the political path he did. He did this all for personal gain. This was never about being a member of a team, being a member of the military, serving your country. It was about serving himself, and I think that's opened the eyes of veterans, left, right, middle, doesn't matter. We all see what that is for what it is. He was advantageous to his situation, and when things were about to get really hard and he was going to have to support guys underneath him, he chose himself over all of his guys, and that's unforgivable in the military, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, Ryan, thank you for your service, man. Thank you for your insight. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, call anytime, man. Let's go to Chris in Bellevue. You're up next on Super Talk. What's up, Chris?
Not much. Morning. Hope you guys are having a good one.
Yes, sir.
I have a question that I haven't heard anybody ask yet. And I know that in some jurisdictions that stolen valor is considered misdemeanor fraud, and you can get a Class C misdemeanor citation for it, and it goes on your record. Has anybody considered this yet?
I have not. I wonder what that is in Minnesota. I'm going to pull it up right now. I think that's a good question because it feels like criminal. Whoever falsely...
Well, I do know that if you utilize it for fraud, and I just looked this up in the state of Tennessee, that if you utilize stolen valor for fraud, it's considered Class A fraud, and it's a felony.
In the state of Minnesota, it's a misdemeanor. Whoever falsely impersonates an active or reserve component military service member, veteran, or public official with intent to wrongfully obtain money, property, or any other tangible benefit is guilty of a misdemeanor. So I think you'd have to get in there and the argument would be, how did he do this, right? So he was demoted, and then he went on to say that he was still that rank that he was before he was demoted. I wonder.
Right. So it would seem like that the rank that he has, or trying to maintain the fact that he's a command sergeant major. I mean, I was 11 Bravo, and it took me forever to get through ANOC, BNOC, and ANOC. And the fact that he's trying to become the vice president would seem that he's utilizing his stolen valor for personal gain in government service.
Yep, I'm with you.
That might actually qualify.
I'm with you. I think you're absolutely right. But it would take a liberal blue state AG that I'm assuming they have in Minnesota to bring those kind of charges, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Good luck.
Does something in another state that's not quite so blue, maybe more purple, or even closer to a lighter shade of red.
Yep. Yeah, I doubt anything's going to happen to him in Minnesota. Don't you know? Appreciate the call though, Chris.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and thanks for your service, man. We appreciate you.
Well, I do want to shout out to my whole family. We go back all the way to the Revolutionary War, and every male in my family has served in the military in some capacity, and especially my aunt, who was a colonel in the Air Force as a nurse in Vietnam, and she did 3 tours, and I'm especially proud of her.
Man, God bless your family, Chris. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you guys take care.
Yeah, you too, sir. Thank you. Yeah, man, the Tim Walz stuff is crazy, and he's not answering any questions about it. He ran away from the questions on the tarmac. The Democrats run away from everything. They're campaigning from the basement. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, on the other hand, they're seeking out reporters to answer questions. Trump is going to have a press conference today at Mar-a-Lago at 1 o'clock Eastern. I know Murphy's probably going to be holding that live. If I have any insight into how Murphy thinks, I bet you he's downright giddy about hearing that press conference live. I'm looking forward to that. But they run away. They run away from everything. Donald Trump, on the other hand, does not run away. He doesn't. He goes into the belly of the beast time after time. And he's hitting new audiences time after time after time. The stream with Aiden Ross that happened a couple days ago has over 100 million views. Over 100 million views. Trump is going into all these different arenas, the National Association of Black Journalists. He's going on these live streams. He's holding press conferences. Where's Kamala? Where is she? We haven't heard from her in 18 days since she got the nomination. Tim Walz, we haven't heard from him. Nobody's asking him hard questions. It's a joke. It's a joke. Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, it's a huge hip-hop show in New York City. He actually addressed Trump going on the Aiden Ross stream, and here's what he had to say about it.
Listen, man, once again, I like the press hit. Trump is an unorthodox candidate. He doesn't come from the political world. He's an entertainer, so he understands how to entertain. He understands pop culture. That interview right there owned the headlines yesterday. I was watching CNN last night, and from about 6 p.m. to about 10 p.m., when I went to sleep, that interview with Aiden Ross was all over CNN.
That's right.
And Aiden Ross's age demo is age 13 to 24.
13 to 24, yep.
Yeah, mostly men. Like I said earlier, there's new voters turning 18 every day. Okay, so to just dismiss that audience and act like that audience doesn't vote, I think that's a grave miscalculation. That is a mistake. Meet people where they are.
Now, see, I agree with a lot of what Charlemagne said there, except I don't think it's a miscalculation by the Harris campaign. The Harris campaign wants to do these interviews with streamers, and they don't want anything to do with her. We talked yesterday about Kai Cenat. He's a popular Twitch streamer. Secret Service blowing up his phone. They wanted to do a stream with Harris. He said no. There's another guy who's a popular streamer, FaZe Ronaldo. Do you know this guy, Mason? Have you heard of him? He went on record yesterday after Kai Cenat went on record, and he said that Secret Service has been blowing him up also.
But I will tell you one thing. Kamala Harris, stop hitting my team, you and the Secret Service, to do a stream. I am not doing a stream with any politicians, bro. Secret Service, stop hitting my team.
Look for the sub.
I'm not doing any stream, bro. Stop.
So it's not a miscalculation by the Harris campaign. They're trying. They're paying influencers, but the influencers want nothing to do with them. Nothing. The only ones propping up Harris and Walz are the mainstream media. That's it. It's wild. Hey, we got more on the way. We actually have a local story that I want to dig into. Did you hear what happened to a woman in Williamson County? She went to go vote in the primary, and she got turned away.
No.
Yeah, she got turned away. She had to go change her shirt.
What? Why?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you after the break. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Stocks up. New details about one of the suspects in the alleged terror attack plot on Taylor Swift fans. And those new allegations against Hunter Biden at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Programming alert. Around 11:35, Secretary of State Trey Hargett is going to be joining the show to address this message that I've received from a listener, Emma Holmes. She went to vote in the primary election in Williamson County, and she got turned away for wearing a political T-shirt. Oh, jeez. What did it say? Trump? MAGA? Was one of the shirts I have? Was it a mugshot shirt? Was it the bloody face, fist in the air, fight shirt? No. It wasn't. The shirt read, "She loves Jesus and America too." It was a Tom Petty shirt. That's a political shirt in Williamson County. A supervisor at the school where she was voting made her leave and turn her shirt inside out before she could vote. And I quote, "Oh, your shirt. You can't wear that shirt here to vote." To which Emma replied, "Me? Because of my shirt?" She said, "Yes, that is political campaigning." I said, "For who?" "I got this shirt for 4th of July. She said, "Well, I've seen it before and you can't wear it." and then it's insane. She looks at the man next to her who had to turn his shirt inside out. Now, the guy next to her had to turn his shirt inside out because he was wearing a Reagan shirt. And so they looked at each other in disbelief, and the guy in the Reagan shirt starts to help go to battle for her, saying, "This is not right. This is insane. You telling us she can't wear that to vote here?" The supervisor said, "Yes, she can't wear that. I can call the election office." She was doubling down that I could not wear that shirt and get a ballot due to political campaigning. The shirt said, "She loves Jesus and America too." I want an update. Now I will say this. Emma commented and said Secretary of State Trey Hargett reached out to her, apologized, said it was wrong. But I want an update on the supervisor who made this woman leave. Has she been fired yet? Has she been fired?
Yeah, it sounds like their career is about to go into a bit of a free fall. Or free fallen, if you
this poor woman
referencing the lyrics.
This poor woman said, "I'll be back," had to leave, went to her car, upset. Her 2 daughters are in there sitting with her dad. Like, what's wrong, Mom? She had to turn her shirt back inside out and then go back in to vote.
That's wild.
She said, "As I left and reflected on what happened, it really bothers me. Did she not like Jesus or America or both?" Those are questions that demand answers. Secretary of State Trey Hargett is going to be joining the show at 11:35 to give us an update. I got to ask, has this woman been fired? We'll find out together. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now, Wall Street seems to like this weekly jobless claims report. The Dow up more than 500 points. NASDAQ up 2%. Jim Ryan.
Investors may breathe a sigh of relief knowing that the number of first-time applications for jobless benefits fell by 17,000 in the week leading up to August 3rd. The total filings fell to 233,000. That's down from the 250,000 submitted the week before.
New information about the alleged ISIS plot to kill Taylor Swift fans at one of her Austrian concerts. One of the suspects had been hired a few days ago by a company that services the venue and would have been working there. Here's Maggie Ruley.
It looks like right now that we know at least one of the suspects had gone online and pledged their allegiance specifically to ISIS-K. That's the ISIS offshoot that operates primarily out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, the big questions here are how much was ISIS-K really involved in this terror plot? We're not sure. It looks like right now that this terror plot was more inspired by ISIS, not necessarily directed by them.
Swift canceled those 3 shows that were expected to draw 195,000 people starting today. New allegations against Hunter Biden, claims he took money to sway U.S. policy while his father was vice president. We get details from Aaron Katursky.
In a new court filing, the special counsel said Hunter Biden and 2 associates were hired in 2015 by Gabriel Papaviciu, a Romanian real estate tycoon who was facing corruption charges in his home country and wanted the U.S. to intervene. The filing said Hunter Biden was concerned lobbying work might cause political ramifications for his father, so the payment was structured in a way that concealed the true nature of the work he was performing.
Yeah, the allegation is part of a tax case set for trial in California next month, and that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram at Chris Hand on air. Listen to the show wherever you go, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or the 99.7 WTN app. All the podcasts are on that app. App is free. We like free stuff, and the podcasts are also on Apple and Spotify. I do want to get to some of this Kamala Harris audio from her rallies in Wisconsin and in Michigan yesterday. She was talking a big game, as she tends to. I see the polls. Some of the polls are like, oh, they're in a tie. And I just feel like this is 2015 all over again, where they're trying to inflate poll numbers, and then there's going to be shock on November 5th when Donald Trump wins. But Kamala Harris, man, she was putting on a clinic of hoaxes and myths. She said that Donald Trump is going to weaponize the DOJ to go after political enemies. Where have I heard that before?
That he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. That he would round up peaceful protesters and throw them out of our country.
No. The protesters are the ones that are here on student visas and burning our flags and defacing our statues at college campuses all over the country. Those are the ones he would throw out of the country, which I don't know. Is that a hot take? You're here as a guest and you're breaking things and spray painting things and causing chaos, and we ask you to leave. Is that a hot take? And then the weaponization of the Department of Justice. Miss me with that. What a joke. As Donald Trump has been having case after case thrown against him that has been coordinated by the White House and the DOJ officials. Nice. Classy. This is all they do. They project and they lie. But Kamala does Kamala things, and she talks the way she does, in rhyme, as Donald Trump puts it.
So, Wisconsin, ultimately, this election is about a question that we each face. We each face a question in this election.
And those questions will have answers, and the answers will be to the questions. Kamala Harris, deep thoughts with Kamala Harris. And then at one point, she had the heckler. And the heckler made her say the line, "I'm speaking," and everybody's just celebrating that. Ooh, what a boss.
You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that, otherwise I'm speaking.
And the SEALs, they clap. The protester was yelling, "Free Palestine." And she shut it down in Michigan. Does that look good for the campaign? Does that play with the far left radical elements of the base? The ones that even Van Jones admits are just have a titch of the anti-Semitism? Is that going to play well? I think it's going to play awful. And she did it in a state with some of the largest Muslim population in the country, Michigan. People are playing that like, oh, wow, she sure showed them. But I don't think it's going to play with the radical elements of the base. And without those radical elements of the base, how do you win an election? They literally avoided Josh Shapiro to appease the radical elements of the base. And now Kamala Harris is shutting down the radical elements of the base with an "I'm speaking." I'm speaking. Okay. She did talk about the future, that was a nice change of pace. Let's hear about your plan for the future.
We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families, so they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because look, while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it.
Yeah, well, like Joe Biden said, in this economy, rich people are going to do good, and poor folks, you'll have a shot. You'll have a shot. To Kamala Harris, we want to make life more affordable for middle class Americans, middle class families. Where have you been? 3.5 years of rampant spending, inflation crisis, high gas prices. Where have you been? And the same economic advisors that have really ruined this economy under Biden-Harris are now jumping ship from the Biden team to the Harris campaign. Do we think anything is going to change if Kamala Harris gains power? Of course not. And Kamala Harris just hits increased levels of pandering, and she brings back her black scent in Detroit after the crowd is chanting, "Lock him up."
Hold on. You know what? Hold on. Here's the thing. The courts are going to handle that. We're going to beat them in November. We'll beat them in November. We'll handle that. Run and tell that.
We'll beat him in November. The pandering. She didn't have that accent in Wisconsin. Just in Detroit. Interesting. Is anything going to change under Kamala Harris? You know, one of the big news stories today has been a Taylor Swift concert being shut down because of an ISIS terror plot. And there's been all these rumors that Taylor Swift is going to endorse the Democrat candidate. Do you think that's still going to happen as she's canceling concerts across the world because of terror threats? Because I don't remember ISIS being this big of a threat under Donald Trump. I actually remember the exact opposite. They only started thriving again once Biden-Harris took office. And What was it? How many weapons did they leave behind in Afghanistan? How many billions of dollars of tech when they abandoned that base and let 13 service members die on their watch? That was a lot. It was quite a bit. I don't know if Taylor Swift is going to come out and endorse a Democrat candidate. Not now. It'd be a bad look. And under Kamala Harris, we've had illegal aliens on the terror watch list breaking into our country. And then they get released. No big deal. No big deal. Remember that story about the illegal aliens trying to get into Quantico? This one's going to blow your mind. This is the Biden-Harris regime. This would be the Harris-Walz regime as well. So the two illegal aliens tried to breach the U.S. Marine base, okay? They both have been released since on bond. Both of them were in ICE custody before they tried to breach the base, and they were released. It's now being reported one of those illegal aliens was on a terror watch list. They let him go twice. One of the two illegal aliens who tried to breach the U.S. Marine base was on a terror watch list. The incident report was obtained by Judicial Watch, and it reveals that one of the two Jordanian illegal aliens accused of trying to breach Quantico in Prince William County, Virginia in May was on a terror watch list. So you had him once at the border, and then you had him in custody for trying to breach the base. You let him go twice. Where is he? Lord knows. Judicial Watch obtained the incident report filed by Marine Base Quantico to Marine headquarters through a Freedom of Information Act request. According to the report, on May 3rd, 32-year-old Hassan Youssef Hamdan and 28-year-old Mohammed Khair Dubous drove a truck to the base's main gate, claimed they were delivery guys for Quantico's town's post office. They didn't have the credentials to enter the base. And despite orders to stop, the report alleges that the pair tried to breach the base. Hamdan, according to the report, only had a Jordanian passport on his person. Both illegal aliens were taken into custody charged with trying to breach the base. The following month, they were both allowed to post bail. They had them for a month. One of these individuals was on a terror watch list. Wow. And they were allowed to post bail by a federal immigration judge, so long as they agreed to steer clear of military base and appear in immigration court at a later date. And I think one of the agreements would have been, pretty please, don't do any terror stuff. Please. At the time of the incident, Hamdan had illegally crossed the United States-Mexico border into the sanctuary state of California just 20 days prior. After being briefly detained, he was released from Department of Homeland Security custody and given a court date in 2026. The report states an Immigration Customs and Enforcement agent confirmed to the Marine Criminal Investigations Division that Hamdan was on a terror watch list. So the Department of Homeland Security had him under Alejandro Mayorkas. And then, after he tries to breach Quantico, he's held for a month, makes bond, and then they find out, oopsies, he was on a terror watch list. Now, ICE officials have since said Hamdan is not a national security risk, but I ask you, if you're on a terror watch list, how can you not be a national security risk? How? Meanwhile, the other guy, DeBoss, was first allowed into the U.S. in September 22 on an F-1 student visa. That expired in January 2023. He never self-deported from the U.S., thus becoming an illegal alien. Soon after the incident, Republicans on the House and Homeland Security Committee announced they were opening a probe into the case and requested several documents from DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray. It's unclear if either agency has complied with the request. If I know anything about these agencies, I think that would be a smart bet that they didn't. Smart bet. Tim Walz, by the way, vice presidential hopeful, Tim A. Walz, he's on Team Abolish ICE. He's strongly backed, majorly reforming the Department of Homeland Security and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which are tasked with arresting, detaining, and deporting illegal aliens. In 2018, Remember the Democrats were all about abolishing ICE. They sought to eliminate the federal agency, ultimately halt arrests and deportations of illegal aliens. Legislation at the time proposed by a handful of House Democrats suggested support for ridding ICE of its duties around enforcing federal immigration law. Walz was a congressman at the time in Minnesota, and he never publicly disavowed the Abolish ICE movement. Instead, he told the Minnesota Post in July 2018 that he wanted to see DHS and ICE overhauled. The Min Post reported 1st District DFL Rep Tim Walz, who's running for governor, said he supported an independent investigation into the actions of the Trump administration on immigration, but did not favor abolishing ICE. As far as DHS and ICE are concerned, I strongly support holding the administration accountable, as well as majorly reforming these institutions to ensure they uphold our sacred values of freedom and democracy. You can say you don't support it, but it's like wink, wink, nod, nod. I don't support it. Let's change everything. That's Tim Walz for you. And less than 2 weeks after saying he wanted major changes at DHS and ICE relating to federal immigration enforcement, he did vote on a House resolution opposing the Abolish ICE movement. That resolution, which Walz did not vote on, stated, whereas abolishing United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement would mean open borders because it would eliminate the main agency responsible for moving people who enter or remain in our country illegally, whereas abolishing ICE would allow dangerous criminal aliens, including violent members of the ruthless gang MS-13, to remain in American communities. Walz's statement and non-action to abolish the ICE movement, it's similar to the Democrat doublespeak that we got from Kamala Harris in 2018.
A lot of the signs at the rally you just held were people standing there saying, abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Democrat doublespeak. Democrat doublespeak. There are 4 open borders, wide open borders. And if you want ISIS terrorist plots to come here for Taylor Swift concerts, well, then Harris Walz is your ticket. Harris Walz is your ticket. Again, that ISIS terror plot at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna, Austria, was thwarted on Wednesday after authorities arrested 2 men allegedly connected to the planned terrorist attacks at big events in European cities, which included her upcoming shows. Swift's shows on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Vienna are still scheduled to go on. According to police, who said the concrete danger had been minimized, the 2 suspects had become radicalized via the internet and had specific detailed plans on how they were going to carry out their terrorist attacks, authorities noted. Vienna State Police Director Franz Ruf and Police Chief Gerhard Perstel added that one of the men arrested by Austrian federal and state police was 19-year-old who pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Bomb squad reportedly found chemical substances after the 19-year-old was taken into custody. And while it remains unclear if the chemicals could have been used to build a bomb, investigations into the nature of those substances are still underway. We're still learning more. But hey, Taylor, if you want these kind of plots to come here, vote Harris Walz. Because under the Biden-Harris regime, 99 terror watch list suspects have come into our country, and we keep letting them go. We keep letting them go, including one of those individuals that tried to breach Quantico. He was on a terror watch list. He was let go by DHS, and then he was allowed to post bond after trying to breach Quantico. It's just another day under Biden-Harris. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You know the guys at Busy Bee. They are legit. They've helped me with my AC issues whenever I need them. They're right there, and I'm a proud Beehive Club member. It came in handy when my upstairs AC unit wasn't working, big time, because when you're a Beehive Club member, you get front-of-the-line priority service, and when I needed them, they were at my home in less than an hour. Have you become a Beehive Club member? You really should. It's only $99, and you get so much value. 3 annual tune-ups, 1 for your heating, 1 for your cooling, 1 for your plumbing. That way problems aren't popping up. You can avoid them with that preventative maintenance. You also get a 10% discount on repairs. You get that priority front-of-the-line service. Take it from me. That's huge. plus a $100 annual accrued replacement credit with a maximum of $1,000, no overtime or holiday fees, and exclusive Beehive member promotions. It's only $99, and it pays for itself immediately. And through the month of August, it's buy one, get one on the Beehive Club memberships for the back-to-school promotion. So you buy one, and you get to give one to a teacher, a faculty member, or a coach at your kid's school. Beats an apple every single time. Other kids are going to come in with some lame gift. You come in with a Beehive Club membership, you're setting your kid up for success the entire school year. I guarantee it. I guarantee you can blow them away. And then they'll get home and they'll be blown away by the cool AC because of Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. I saw the eye roll from Mason in the other studio when I made the lame joke. Sorry. Online at busybhvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
A manhunt nabs 3 members of a Texas gang here in Middle Tennessee. We'll tell you about that at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:25 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, we're talking about open borders under Biden-Harris and how that will continue under a Harris-Walz regime. But have you seen what's going on in England? Chaos. Chaos. And it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better. There's actually a Birmingham police officer in the UK on video appearing to admit that there is a 2-tier policing system in England when it comes to native Britons and the Muslim migrants. Following the emergence of the Muslim people mobs in England as an apparent counter to what's called far-right riots, with reports stating some carrying weapons in Bordesley Green area of Birmingham on Monday, the police appeared to admit they have different standards for different races while trying to explain their failure to prevent the anarchic scenes. When pressed as to why there was such little presence during the incident for police, West Midlands Police Superintendent Emlyn Richards said, We have really strong business and community relations, and because we were aware through intelligence that there was a potential protest because of misinformation, we had the opportunity to meet with community leaders, business leaders prior to the event to understand the style of policing we need to deliver. We knew there was going to be a large amount of people out on that counter protest, and we knew who the vast majority of these people were. We had conversations what that was likely to look like. They acknowledge that they're treating the protest differently. Now, this all stems from a terrorist attack with a knifeman stabbing children at a dance party. 3 of those young girls died. And the British are pissed, rightfully so. Now, has it devolved into violence? Yes, and the violence shouldn't be accepted. But the anger is righteous. The anger is because the British authorities have done nothing about this for years. When it comes to the rape gangs in England, they've done nothing. You look at what's happening in England, you get 24 months for a Facebook post that criticizes the police response, but you get 180 days of community service if you're a migrant raping a minor. It's insanity. Absolute insanity. And I caught a clip of Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan was covering this, obviously, and he had Andrew Tate on. And Andrew Tate has been calling for the riots to stop, but Piers Morgan said, are you going to call for the riots to stop? Are you? Because Andrew Tate is a Muslim, and he's one of the only people in the UK standing against what's happening there. Father Calvin Robinson was on earlier in the week, and he covered this extensively as well. He's standing against this. Tommy Robinson is another voice that says this has to stop. It has to change. But this is what's coming to us if we don't wake up in America. And it's so bad over there that even when the quote-unquote far right denounces violence, the leftists in the media, they don't acknowledge it.
Would you like to take this opportunity finally to tell the rioters to stop rioting? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Well, considering I've been saying that for the last 4 days on Twitter and you didn't read any of the tweets out, they should be in front of you. There's at least 30. Let me make it clear to the people on both sides of the equation, all of my brothers in Islam and all of the Christians and native people of the UK who feel like they're underrepresented. You have more in common with the people you live amongst than you do with these political elites.
You have more in common with the people you live amongst than you do these political elites. I mean, that hit me in my core because it's so true. And then Tate goes on a rant that is one for the ages.
The people you live amongst love their children, and they're struggling to pay the bills exactly like you are. There's no reason for UK, one of the greatest countries in the world, one of the largest empires in history, to be plunged into poverty if it wasn't being looted by a political class that do not care about you. And the people who do not care about you, the number one thing they want is the different breeds or different types or different categories of poor people to fight so nobody looks up and sees who the real enemy is. Britain can be a rich country and it can be prosperous and it can be safe and it can be regulated and the police can respond and it can be as beautiful as a lot as the first world Islamic nations are. There's no reason why it has to be the way it is unless a political class was failing the people who they're supposed to represent for generations.
And they have been failing the people that they're supposed to represent for generations.
And that's where this anger and hatred comes from. Not because a video was made on Twitter. That is so infantile and asinine to believe that some little video on Twitter started all of these things.
Here's what
that is what's happening.
Video.
So stop rioting amongst each other and realize who the real enemy of your freedom is. When you understand the truth about this world, listen, I was born on a Luton Council estate and now I have hundreds of millions of dollars. And let me promise you, it's never poor versus poor. It's rich versus poor. When a black billionaire and a white billionaire meet, there is no racism because they are billionaires. Racism is what they use to divide the poor people, to stop us realizing that they lie about every single thing on the news, that they inflate the currency constantly. They send our money away to wars we're not interested in. Nobody can afford their bills. Nobody can afford health care. And you're going to die alone in some nursing home because you can't afford a nice house, because even then they're going to inheritance tax it.
Where's the lie? Andrew Tate with a great rant on what's happening and how we're being divided. And when he talks about what's happening in the UK, I look at what's happening here and I go, oh, I've seen this one before. It's 11:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. And right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says 3 members of a Texas gang are in custody following a crime spree along I-40 from Nashville to Kingston Springs yesterday. There was a robbery at an ATM in Nashville. Then a woman in Kingston Springs says she shot at someone trying to rob her. A multi-agency manhunt started with the Cheatham County Sheriff's Office, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Metro Police Department, and Tennessee State Parks. Metro Police and Tennessee Highway Patrol helicopters tracked the getaway car, relayed the location to cops on the ground. They set up a perimeter and eventually arrested all 3 suspects. Police say they are members of a gang in Houston, Texas. Public meetings start next week to get input on TDOT's plan to charge people to drive so-called choice lanes to ease traffic congestion here in Middle Tennessee. News 2 says plans include minimum speed limits of 45 to 55 miles per hour in these lanes. Access will likely be at Sam Ridley Parkway, Waldron Road, Bell Road, and East Thompson Lane, according to a TDOT video presentation. Construction for the choice lanes set to start in 2027 between Nashville and Murfreesboro. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
$11:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. There was a story out of Williamson County. A woman was turned away from voting. She had to leave and turn her shirt inside out because the shirt had a political message on it. The message was, she loves Jesus and America too. And I thought this story was shocking. I was grateful that she reached out to me. And I have Secretary of State Trey Hargett on the line now to talk about this. Trey, Emma Briggs Holmes, she said that you reached out to her in light of this incident. She said that you were actually very, very kind to her. But I kind of want to know from your vantage point, what happened in Williamson County that day?
Well, from my vantage point, it sounds like somebody certainly misinterpreted the laws. There's no statute or rule that was violated by that shirt. So somebody sent it to me Thursday night after the polls closed, a friend of a friend. And my first thought was, that's a cool shirt.
Yeah.
And then my second thought was, why in the world would somebody think that's a political shirt? So certainly the law wasn't applied correctly. And, I'm sorry she had that experience.
What are we doing to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again in Williamson County? Has this poll worker
county,
been...
for that matter, you double down on training to make sure that people understand that it's really meant to prevent campaigning. And so how we look at that we try to train county officials so they can in turn train their poll officials that you can't walk in with something that has a candidate's name on it, a party name, something that's a campaign slogan. Typically, our rule of thumb is if we can find that material on a campaign or party website of some sort, then it's prohibited. You know, the person in front of her was wearing a Reagan-Bush shirt. Neither Reagan nor Bush are on the ballot. That person was told they had to turn their shirt inside out. But, you know, if you walk into the polls wearing a Trump shirt, a Kennedy shirt, a Harris shirt, you know, you're going to be told you can't wear that inside the polling place. So we got to make sure that we continue to double down on training so people understand what the law is.
Has any action been taken against the supervisor at that polling place?
Well, that's ultimately up to the Williamson County Election Commission, so I would defer that question to them. You know, it certainly was our recommendation when we first saw it, that person not be working future elections. But I would also say this, and I don't know the person, if it's a he or a she. What I will say is a lot of times some of your best employees are the ones who make big mistakes and learn from them and commit to never make them again. So, but at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the Williamson County Election Commission.
And are you, with doubling down on training, are you sending out memos to let people know that this kind of stuff can't go on?
Well, we're not sending out memos. Certainly, we communicate with all 95 counties. We actually had another county who, independent of this, reached out to us this morning to say, hey, we want to make sure that, you know, we're not overthinking the law. And I think that's what happens sometimes is you have officials who overthink. They want to make sure that they are not doing something inappropriate and erring on the side of caution. And so it's just, once again, making sure that people out there understand what the law is meant to do, and it's meant to keep people from campaigning with 100 foot.
No, I understand that.
I should say 100 feet, not 100 foot, obviously.
Yeah, I was picking up what you were putting down. As you're going through this process and we're getting closer to the election, how much contact do you have with other secretaries of states around the country?
You know, there's some I speak with more than others, but, you know, certainly, you know, we're trying to stay in touch to see what's going on in their states, not necessarily from an electoral standpoint, but from an election administration standpoint. If there are particular concerns that they are seeing around physical or cybersecurity, we certainly want to be discussing those issues. And just any other, you know, sometimes if something happens here that I think people need a heads up on, I make sure they know that, and I hope they do the same for me.
Have you heard the story about the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, setting up a request or requesting that voters in the state help fight election misinformation by reporting on each other?
Well, I haven't heard it put that way, but I will say this. I mean, and I don't know about reporting on each other, but if somebody sees something they know is factually incorrect online or social media, I hope they call us so we can try and get it fixed. You know, one of the last things we want is people putting out information that can mislead voters. We've had that happen in Tennessee. Had a young lady one night who posted, and I say young, she was younger than me, so that makes her young. And she posted something, you know, saying everybody needs to go online and confirm their voter information. It's important that they do this right now. And I was like, why in the world is she talking about that? And even talked about how our website was down and what a shame that was. And by the way, if you looked at her bio and her Twitter account, it showed her being an elections lawyer. And I'd never heard of her in my life. So I think that, you know, I contacted her and said, hey, you mentioned this. Number one, our website's been up. It's been working all day. Haven't had any issues out of it. And maybe you need to clean out your cache. I said, number two, you mentioned the requirement for people to go on and confirm their voter registration. And I said, what do you mean by that? You could confuse people by that. And she says, well, that must have been a typo. I didn't really mean that. I said, well, that's a long way from getting your fingers off home row keys. So, you know, the thing is, though, people put stuff like that out there, and even when we go back and correct them, and sometimes I think it's intentional, sometimes I think it's ignorance, you know, they never go back and they never take that stuff down. It lives out there. It's amazing the things that people will put out, and then months later, we still see it getting likes and retweets out there. We're like, this is wrong. And so I think every Secretary of State in the country, whether you're Democrat or Republican, wants to make sure good information is getting out there. Especially when it comes to elections administration, whether it's hours of operation, day, you know, when early voting ends, when it begins, where polling sites are located. You know, we want to make sure people have good information so they can make their voice heard.
No, I appreciate it. And I know you're pressed for time, but I do want to ask, a lot of the anxiety around this upcoming election is integrity. Are you seeing anything that would reassure voters or anything that kind of gives you a little bit of anxiety yourself as it comes to elections across the country?
One of the biggest concerns I always have is when people put out misinformation. That's whenever people believe that the scales are tilted one way or the other, it's not going to be a fair election. That's what will disenfranchise voters. I think we're going to have a robust turnout this fall, and people need to go and make their voice heard here in Tennessee and do it with confidence.
How do you calm those fears? Because from my vantage point, a lot of people are nervous.
Well, hey, nothing wrong with being nervous. I mean, back when I played sports, back before a big football game or whatever, you got a little nervous for the game. That doesn't mean you don't go compete and do the best that you can. So, what I say is that we work year-round to try and make sure that we conduct these elections with the utmost of integrity. We got good election officials in all 95 counties in our state, and they're going to bring their A game this November.
All right. Well, Secretary of State Trey Hargett, I appreciate you jumping on to take some time with us, and I appreciate the way you handled that issue in Williamson County.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Trey Hargett, everybody, Secretary of State, joining us on the Newsmaker hotline, discussing that story about Emma Briggs Holmes, who was told that she had to leave the polling place because she had a T-shirt that said she loves Jesus and America too. That wasn't right. And he also said the Bush-Reagan shirt is also fair game. So we'll leave that there. What do you think about that? 615-737-9986. I don't know. I get why people have anxiety about the election. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. A lot of people want to know, what are Republicans doing when it comes to election integrity? And I pointed out the Virginia governor, Glenn Youngkin, he's signed an executive order to enhance election security. He's signed Executive Order 35, which measures include disconnecting tabulation machines from the internet, 24/7 monitoring of ballot drop boxes, non-citizen records from the Virginia DMV will be shared with the Department of Elections. And he said Virginia's made unprecedented strides in improving the accuracy of our voter lists. Another thing that gives me hope is in Nevada. Michael Watley tweeted this out. 90,000 inactive voters were removed from the rolls in Clark County, Nevada, as a result of their efforts to protect the vote. I think that's huge. 90,000. To put it in perspective, in 2020, Nevada was decided by 33,596 votes. So to remove 90,000 inactive voters from the rolls in Clark County, that's a huge win. That's a huge win. And the RNC is continuing to challenge states counting ballots received late. In 2020, if it was postmarked in time and you received it days later, they were counting those ballots. The RNC is pushing back against that. Now it doesn't stop Joe Biden from getting out of his hole and saying he's worried about the peaceful transfer of power, which is wild. Joe Biden did an interview before Kamala Harris did, since she's become the nominee, but he's worried about the peaceful transfer of power.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all. He means what he says. We don't take him seriously. He means it. All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. Have be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes, right?
Didn't Joe Biden once say it's about who counts the votes? Isn't he on record saying that? Yes, the RNC is training up lawyers and poll watchers and getting them into battleground states to be able to be in the room. We need to be in the room. As far as the peaceful transfer of power, if Kamala Harris wins, the transfer of power is Biden to Harris. What are you worried about? And I lean back to his original answer. If Trump wins, yes, I'm worried.
That there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025.
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all.
I think that that's him accidentally saying the quiet part out loud, telling the truth. We remember Jamie Raskin a few days ago saying Congress will have to stop Trump from taking power if the people decide to vote him in.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need...
It's going to be up to us, Jamie Raskin says, if Trump gets elected, to tell the people, the rampaging mobs, as he put it, that Trump is disqualified. Interesting, huh?
The rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
Jamie Raskin on record saying if the people vote for Donald Trump, it will be our job to say, sorry, guys, he's disqualified. Again, it just seems like the Democrats are saying the quiet part out loud. Jamie Raskin, it will be Civil War-like conditions because we'll have to tell the Trump mobs that he's disqualified because the Supreme Court decided to not do their job. I can't believe he said that out loud. But I believe him when he says it. I do. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy's going to be checking in with us next. He's got a big show today. At 1 o'clock Central Time, Donald Trump is going to be giving a press conference. And I know Murphy's going to be covering this live, as he tends to do. I can't wait to listen and see what Trump has to say. Trump is always willing to take questions from reporters. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, not so much. We'll talk to Murphy next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by Matt Murphy. Did you hear what time the Kamala Harris news conference is going to be today?
I have not.
Yeah, nobody has because they're not going to have one.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
He doesn't do that.
Well, it's my understanding that presidential candidates don't do these types of things anymore.
No, that's old-fashioned.
They don't do old school press conferences anymore.
Yeah.
Except, wait. Donald Trump's doing one at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Oh,
are you looking forward to that? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love it. Do you think Tim Walz will come up at all?
Did they vet Tim Walz at all?
No, I think they did.
Really?
Chris Hand, I believe they did. And the vetting, you want to know what the vetting went like?
Tell me.
The vetting went like this. Hello, Tim. Welcome. Come on in. Sit down. We have a few questions for you. Number 1, are you Jewish?
Jesus. Did we notice you weren't wearing a little hat?
Because the last guy, sadly, we did that question at the end, and Mr. Shapiro, in fact, was Jewish, and we probably should just get that one out of the way up front. If a couple of, no offense to my bloggers in pajamas, right? But if people on the internet can dig up 3 or 4 or 5 instances of Tim Walz clearly identifying himself as a battlefield soldier,
yeah,
that's stolen valor. And I never served in the United States military, and I'm going to leave it to those who did to take the lead on all of this. But every single American that believes that our freedoms and liberties are secured by men and women who take up arms and head out to the battlefield, we are insulted by this.
And I've spoken to a lot of veterans today who were gracious enough to call the show and give their opinion. Do you think that if you're a veteran and you're a Democrat, this will prevent you from voting for a Harris, a Walz ticket?
Wait, I do not believe that you're going to convert votes from Kamala Harris to Donald Trump over this issue.
Not convert.
But I do believe
sit out?
But I do believe that you can create a dynamic by which people will sit home. And that's what it's all about. It is presenting yourself in a phony way that would lead an individual, maybe they're middle of the road, maybe they're moderate, maybe dad and grandma voted Democrat all their lives, so they voted Democrat all their lives. Am I motivated to go and vote for someone who obviously presented himself in this way, misrepresented himself? No, I'm not. And I do think that hurts him in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Even in Minnesota, for goodness sake. And I would dare say many Minnesota veterans had no idea that he had been doing this because the media has been spiking this for so long.
Speaking of sitting out, at the Detroit rally last night, Kamala Harris interrupted by a Free Palestine protester, and she says, I'm speaking. And she shuts down this protester. Does that make the abandoned Biden, the uncommitted movement, look at her and go, oh, it's just the same thing?
I would think so, because that's what it is. Did you see her statement? One, she doesn't come out in front of a news camera and deliver a statement herself because she's fearful that she will actually have to answer questions. This should say everything that we need to know about this candidacy. It is AstroTurf from the beginning. But she delivers a statement that tries to hedge her bets in the same way that Joe Biden has tried to hedge his. And if I'm bought in on that movement, as wrong-headed as it is, this is not your person.
No.
She supports Israel. Not that I really believe she supports Israel. It's the Mr. Miyagi principle of politics, Chris Hand. You karate yes, you're okay. Your karate no, you're okay. Your karate so-so, squish just like grape. And she's trying to be that way on this issue. I will further the Miyagi principle coming up at 12 o'clock.
Well, look forward to that. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.